The morning I switched the cups, everything felt strangely quiet. Margaret, my mother-in-law, smiled like she always did, a smile that never reached her eyes. She placed the cup in front of me, just like every day, saying, "Extra sugar, just how you like it." But that morning, I knew what was in it. I had seen the little bottle she thought I hadn't noticed. I knew what she was doing to me. I sat across from her, calm on the outside, shaking on the inside. My hands felt cold as I pretended to stir the coffee. Then, when she looked away for just a second, I switched the cups. It was a small, quiet move, the kind no one would ever notice. She came back to the table, still talking about the weather, about how a good wife should know her place. Then she took a sip. I watched her face, but I didn't say a word. She didn't notice the switch. For the first time, I felt no fear, no panic, just a strange kind of peace. My heart was pounding, but my mind was clear. I thought about every morning I had sat there, drinking what she made, trying to ignore the way my stomach would twist afterward, trying to believe maybe it was stress or bad luck. But deep down I had known. Margaret kept talking, her tone sharp as ever. She said I was making her son miserable, that I was too quiet, too weak, too different. I didn't answer. I just watched her hand tremble slightly as she took another sip. Ryan, my husband, was upstairs getting ready for work. I thought about calling him down, but I didn't. I wanted the truth to speak for itself. A few minutes later, her voice started to fade. She put the cup down, pressing her hand against her chest. Her smile slipped. "Olivia," she whispered, I don't feel right." I stood up slowly, looking at her, the woman who had smiled at me while trying to kill me. My voice came out calm, almost too calm. "You should sit down, Margaret," I said. "You're just getting a taste of your own coffee." Her eyes widened when she realized what I meant. I didn't shout. I didn't move toward her. I just stood there, letting her understand what had happened. For once, she didn't have words to hurt me. When Ryan came downstairs, everything changed. He saw his mother pale and shaking, the half-empty cup on the table. I said nothing. I just looked at him. He ran to her side, shouting her name. I stood there, watching the scene unfold, the truth finally out in the open, though no one had spoken it aloud. That morning, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than screaming, and a single quiet choice can change everything. When Olivia first met Ryan, she believed her life was finally turning around. He was gentle, patient, and always listened. After years of failed relationships and loneliness, his kindness felt like a safe place. They got married quietly, surrounded by a few close friends. For a while, everything felt simple: home-cooked meals, movie nights, soft laughter. Olivia thought she had finally found peace. But that peace ended the day she met Margaret, Ryan's mother. From their first meeting, something in Margaret's eyes told Olivia she wasn't welcome. She smiled politely, but her words carried poison. "You're pretty," she said that first night, "but looks fade, and a man like Ryan needs more than that." Olivia laughed softly, thinking maybe it was just nerves. But it wasn't. It was the beginning of something darker. Margaret never shouted or caused open fights. Her cruelty came wrapped in politeness. A comment here, a look there, always making Olivia feel smaller. During dinners, she'd say things like, "In our family, women know how to keep things together," or, "Ryan likes his coffee strong. I guess you don't make it that way yet." Each word landed like a tiny knife. Ryan usually brushed it off, saying, "That's just how Mom is. Don't take it seriously." But Olivia did. Every word sank deep. The visits became harder. Margaret would forget to invite Olivia to family gatherings, or she'd serve her food she knew Olivia didn't like. She'd give her small, polite smiles that never reached her eyes. Olivia tried to be kind, tried to earn her respect, but no matter what she did, it was never enough. Margaret made her feel like an outsider in her own marriage. Ryan, caught in the middle, refused to see what was really happening. He loved both women and tried to keep peace, but his silence hurt more than Margaret's words. Olivia started to feel invisible. She'd cook dinners that went untouched when Margaret visited because she wasn't hungry. She'd try to talk to Ryan after, but he'd just sigh and say, "Please, don't start another argument." What hurt the most was how calculated it all was. Margaret knew exactly what she was doing. She'd praise Ryan for small things, call him her perfect boy, and then glance at Olivia with a pitying smile. It was as if she was reminding her, "He was mine first, and he always will be." Still, Olivia stayed quiet. She thought maybe time would change things, that kindness could soften Margaret's heart. She kept trying, bringing her flowers, cooking her favorite meals, helping around her house. But the more Olivia tried, the colder Margaret became. And slowly, something inside Olivia began to shift. She stopped believing Margaret would ever accept her. The warmth she once felt around Ryan's family turned into dread. Every visit became a test, every word a reminder that peace in that house was only an illusion. What Olivia didn't know was that Margaret's hate wasn't just in her words anymore. Soon, it would turn into something far more dangerous. When Ryan lost his job, Olivia tried to stay calm. She told him they'd figure it out together, but deep down, she was scared. Bills were piling up, and rent was due. Ryan suggested moving in with his mother, just for a few months, until he found work again. Olivia hesitated, but she didn't want to argue. She wanted to be supportive. So they packed their things and moved into Margaret's house, the place where everything started to fall apart. From the first day, Margaret made it clear whose house it was. She stood at the door, smiling tightly, saying, "Welcome home, well, my home." Olivia tried to stay polite, thanking her for letting them stay. But Margaret's tone and eyes told her she wasn't a guest, she was an intruder. It started small. Margaret rearranged Olivia's things, saying she was just making space. She moved Olivia's clothes to a smaller closet, replaced her decorations with old family photos, and told her which chair was for guests only. The kitchen became another battlefield. Olivia would cook dinner, and Margaret would walk in, sniff the air, and say, "Smells interesting. I guess Ryan's taste has changed." Then she'd take over, adding spices, changing recipes, always making sure her version was better. Ryan didn't see the problem. Every time Olivia tried to talk about it, he'd sigh and say, "She's helping. Don't take it personally." He said his mom just needed time to adjust. But Olivia noticed things he didn't, like the way Margaret's eyes followed her when she cooked, or how she'd appear suddenly whenever Olivia was alone in the kitchen. Then came the coffee. Every morning, Margaret would make a fresh pot and insist Olivia have a cup. "You need energy," she'd say sweetly, setting the mug in front of her. Olivia didn't like coffee much, but refusing felt rude. So she'd drink it, and Margaret would sit nearby watching. Not talking, not doing anything else, just watching. At first, Olivia thought she was imagining it. But the longer they stayed, the more uneasy she felt. Her stomach would twist after drinking it. She'd feel dizzy sometimes, weak and tired for no reason. She mentioned it to Ryan once, saying maybe the coffee was too strong. He laughed it off, saying, "You're just not used to Mom's way of making it." But Olivia knew it wasn't about the coffee's strength. It was the way Margaret's eyes softened every time she took a sip, like she was waiting for something, like she enjoyed seeing Olivia drink it. One morning, Olivia caught Margaret stirring the coffee before calling her in. Margaret quickly hid something in the drawer when she entered. Olivia didn't say anything. She just sat down, pretending not to notice. As she lifted the cup to her lips, she felt Margaret's gaze again, steady, sharp, and unblinking. Something was wrong. The air in that house felt heavier every day. Olivia couldn't prove it yet, but her instincts whispered the truth. Margaret's hatred had gone beyond words, and whatever she was doing, it wasn't just meant to hurt feelings anymore. One night after dinner, Olivia felt something wasn't right. Her stomach twisted in pain, and her hands started to shake. At first, she thought maybe she'd eaten too fast or that stress was catching up to her. Ryan rushed to her side, worried, but when she said she felt sick, he brushed it off gently, saying, "You've been tired lately. It's just stress, Liv." He made her lie down, gave her some water, and went back downstairs to talk to his mother. But deep inside, Olivia knew it wasn't just stress. The pain was too sharp, too sudden. It felt like something burning inside her. When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of that morning, of the cup of coffee Margaret had set before her with that same, fixed smile. The next morning, Olivia woke up weak but alert. She walked to the kitchen and found Margaret already there, humming softly as she stirred 2 mugs of coffee. "Morning, dear," she said in her sweet, practiced tone. "You look pale. This will help." She slid the cup toward her. Olivia's heart beat faster, but she managed to smile and say, "Thank you." This time, she didn't drink it. She waited until Margaret turned to the sink, then quietly set the cup down. She picked up her phone, pretending to check a message, and tilted the cup slightly, letting some coffee spill on the floor near the table leg. Margaret turned back, none the wiser, and smiled again before walking out of the kitchen. Olivia sat there, her hands shaking. She didn't know what she expected to find, but her instincts told her something was terribly wrong. She left the half-empty cup on the counter and went to lie down. A few minutes later, she heard scratching noises from the kitchen. Their small dog, Buddy, was licking the spilled coffee. Olivia was about to call out when suddenly, the dog started shaking. It happened fast, a soft whine, then his body stiffened. Olivia ran over, kneeling beside him, calling his name. Her voice broke as she tried to hold him, but within seconds, he went still. She froze, her eyes wide, staring at the small puddle of brown liquid on the floor. Her breath caught in her throat. She didn't need proof anymore. She didn't need to wonder if it was just her imagination. That coffee was never meant for Buddy. It was meant for her. The thought hit her so hard she could barely stand. Her hands felt cold, her whole body numb. When Margaret came back into the kitchen and saw Olivia crying over the dog, she frowned but didn't look surprised. She just said, "Oh dear, these little creatures can be so fragile." Then she calmly picked up the empty mug from the counter and washed it, humming again like nothing had happened. Olivia didn't say a word. She couldn't. But in that moment, her fear turned into something else, a quiet, burning certainty. Whatever Margaret was hiding behind her smile, Olivia was going to find out. And this time, she wasn't going to be the one drinking the coffee. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Buddy shaking on the floor. The sound of his soft whimper replayed in her head like a cruel reminder of what almost happened to her. She lay awake beside Ryan, staring at the ceiling, realizing that no one was going to believe her without proof. If she went to the police now, they'd call it an accident. Ryan would defend his mother, and Margaret would twist the story like she always did. Olivia knew she had to be smart. The next morning, while Ryan was out job hunting, Olivia went into town and bought a small hidden camera, one that looked like a regular phone charger. She told herself it was just to clear her mind, but deep down she knew exactly why she needed it. When she returned home, she waited until Margaret went to the garden, then quietly plugged the camera into a socket near the kitchen counter. It had a perfect view of the coffee maker and the spot where Margaret always prepared her morning special cup. That night, Olivia acted normal. She helped with dinner, smiled politely, even thanked Margaret for dessert. Inside, she felt sick. Her heart raced every time Margaret looked at her, but she forced herself to stay calm. She couldn't afford a single mistake. The next morning, she woke up early and told Margaret she was going to shower before breakfast. "Take your time, dear," Margaret said, smiling like always. Olivia walked upstairs but didn't turn on the water. Instead, she quietly opened her phone and connected it to the camera. Her stomach tightened as the live feed appeared. Margaret was standing at the counter, humming softly as she made 2 cups of coffee. Olivia watched her scoop the grounds, pour the hot water, and stir gently. Then, Margaret looked around to make sure no one was watching. From the drawer, she pulled out a small white bottle. Olivia's breath caught. She watched as Margaret unscrewed the cap and tapped the bottle carefully, letting a small amount of white powder fall into one of the cups, the one she always gave to Olivia. Margaret stirred it slowly, her face calm, almost peaceful. She wiped the counter, hid the bottle back in the drawer, and carried the 2 cups to the table. Olivia stood frozen, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. For a moment, she couldn't even move. She stared at the screen, replaying the moment again and again, hoping she was wrong. But there was no mistake. The proof was right there. The woman who smiled at her every morning had been trying to poison her. Her hands shook as she saved the footage. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but she didn't. Instead, she turned off her phone, took a deep breath, and looked at herself in the mirror. Margaret wasn't just cruel. She was dangerous. And now Olivia finally had the truth, the kind that couldn't be denied, twisted, or ignored. Olivia waited until evening to show Ryan the video. She sat at the dining table, her hands tight around her phone, heart thudding in her chest. When he walked in, tired from another day of job hunting, she said softly, "Ryan, there's something you need to see." He looked confused but sat beside her. She pressed play. At first, he watched quietly. The video showed Margaret at the counter, pouring coffee just like every morning. Then came the moment, the small bottle, the white powder, the careful stir. Olivia felt her stomach twist as she watched his face change. His eyes widened for a second, then narrowed. When the video ended, the silence between them was heavy. Ryan stood up suddenly, shaking his head. "No," he said firmly. "No, that's not what it looks like." Olivia stared at him. "Ryan, you saw it. She put something in my coffee. That's the same cup I drink every day." He started pacing. "You're misunderstanding. It's probably medicine or vitamins or something." His voice rose, filled with panic and denial. My mom would never hurt you, Olivia. She's not capable of that. Olivia felt a sharp sting in her chest. You think I made this up? She asked quietly. Ryan didn't answer. He looked away, rubbing his hands over his face. You don't know her like I do. She's been through a lot. She just wants to help. Before Olivia could reply, Margaret entered the room. What's going on? She asked, her tone sweet but cautious. Ryan looked at her, his face pale. Mom, Olivia thinks you poisoned her coffee. Margaret gasped, pressing a hand to her chest like she'd been struck. What? How could you even say that? Her eyes filled with tears so quickly it almost looked practiced. After everything I've done for her? Olivia held up the phone. I have proof, Margaret. I saw you. Margaret stepped closer, her voice trembling. Oh, honey, you must be confused. That was sugar. You know my hands shake sometimes. She turned to Ryan, crying harder now. She's trying to turn you against me. Ryan reached for his mother's shoulder, trying to calm her. It's okay, Mom, it's okay. Olivia felt her throat close. She wanted him to defend her, to say he believed her. But he didn't. He stood there, torn between guilt and fear, and finally said the words that broke her completely. Olivia, I think you're overreacting. Her body went cold. Overreacting, she whispered. You saw it yourself. He looked away. Just stop, okay? Don't make this worse. Margaret sniffled and hugged him tightly, whispering something Olivia couldn't hear. When she looked at them standing together, she felt like an outsider in her own marriage. That night, Olivia didn't cry. She didn't argue. She sat quietly in their room, staring at the wall, realizing she was completely alone. The man she loved had chosen to look away, and the woman who hated her had almost succeeded. Something inside her hardened. If no one would protect her, she decided she would protect herself, no matter what it took. Game was over. It was only a matter of time before Margaret learned that. A week passed in heavy silence. Olivia moved through the house like a ghost, saying little and showing no emotion. Ryan avoided her, spending most of his time outside or on the phone, and Margaret acted as if nothing had happened. Every morning, she still made her special coffee, offering it with that same gentle tone. You need your energy, dear, she'd say with a smile that now made Olivia's stomach twist. Olivia had stopped drinking it after the confrontation, claiming it made her jittery. But that morning felt different. She woke early, calm but alert, like her body already knew something was about to change. She walked downstairs to find Margaret in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred 2 cups. Morning, Olivia said with a small smile. Morning, dear, Margaret replied sweetly. Your favorite blend. She placed the cup in front of her, just like always. Ryan was upstairs getting ready. Olivia glanced at the clock, 8:15. He'd come down any minute, just in time to see his mother play the part of the loving parent again. Olivia sat down and began chatting casually. I was thinking about making pancakes today. Maybe with blueberries? She said lightly, pretending to stir her coffee. Margaret nodded, distracted, reaching for the sugar bowl. And that's when Olivia moved. It was a small, smooth motion, so simple it didn't even feel real. She pushed her cup slightly forward and pulled Margaret's cup toward her, as if absent-mindedly swapping them. Margaret didn't notice. She was too busy talking about how Ryan loved her cooking. Olivia felt her heartbeat slow, not speed up. For the first time in months, she wasn't scared. She lifted the cup, not the one with the powder, and pretended to take a sip. Margaret smiled, watching her like always. Then she took a sip from hers. It took less than a minute. Margaret's hand twitched first, then her face went pale. She coughed once, then again, harder this time. The spoon clattered from her fingers, coffee spilling onto the table. What did you? She gasped, clutching her throat. Olivia stood up slowly, her expression calm, almost cold. You always said you wanted me to love you like family, she said softly. Now you're just getting a taste of your own love. Margaret's eyes widened in shock, the meaning of Olivia's words sinking in. She reached toward her, trembling, but Olivia didn't move. She just stood there, watching, her voice steady as she said, You shouldn't have underestimated me. Ryan came running down the stairs at the sound of the coughing. Mom, he shouted, rushing to her side. Margaret could barely speak, her face flushed and eyes full of panic. Olivia stepped back, letting him take over, her hands steady, her breathing even. The room filled with noise, Ryan's panic, Margaret's choked gasps, the clinking of the cup as it rolled across the table. But Olivia heard none of it. Inside her, there was only silence. the kind that comes when fear finally leaves you. For the first time, she felt free, not because she wanted revenge, but because she had stopped being the victim. Margaret had played her last move, and Olivia had ended the game. Ryan's scream filled the kitchen as Margaret collapsed to the floor. He grabbed the phone, shouting for help while Olivia stood frozen, her face unreadable. The sound of sirens came minutes later, but it felt like hours. Paramedics rushed in, lifting Margaret onto a stretcher. She was barely conscious, her skin pale and her lips trembling. Olivia stepped aside quietly, watching everything without saying a word. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly. Ryan sat in the waiting area, running his hands through his hair, muttering, "She's going to be fine. She has to be fine." Olivia sat across from him, calm but drained. When the doctor finally came out, his expression was serious. "She's stable for now," he said, "but we found traces of rat poison in her system. She's lucky she didn't ingest more." Ryan froze. His eyes darted toward Olivia, disbelief mixing with anger. "Rat poison," he repeated, his voice shaking. Then he stood up suddenly. "You did this, didn't you? You set her up." Olivia didn't flinch. "I didn't touch that coffee," she said quietly. Ryan's voice rose, echoing through the hallway. "You hated her. You've been acting strange for weeks. You wanted this to happen." Before Olivia could answer, a police officer approached. "Mrs. Cooper?" he asked. Olivia nodded. "We need to ask you a few questions." They went into a small room where Olivia showed them her phone. Her hands were steady as she played the videos, every recording from the hidden camera. The officer watched silently, his expression turning grim as Margaret appeared on screen, day after day, mixing the white powder into Olivia's cup. When the video ended, Olivia spoke softly. "She's been poisoning me for weeks. I didn't want to believe it. I just wanted to survive." The officer nodded slowly. "You did the right thing saving this," he said. "It's clear what happened." Later, the police spoke with Ryan. They explained what they'd seen, the clear evidence that his mother had been the one trying to kill Olivia. Ryan refused to look at her. His hands shook as he whispered, "No, she couldn't." But the truth was right there, impossible to deny. Margaret had poisoned her own coffee that morning, the same coffee she had meant for Olivia. The case was closed within days. The police ruled it self-defense, saying Olivia hadn't broken any law. Margaret's poisoning was labeled accidental self-infliction. But that didn't bring peace. Ryan stopped speaking to Olivia. He packed a bag one morning and left without saying goodbye. Olivia watched from the doorway as he drove away. There were no tears this time. She felt empty, but also free. The house that had once felt like a prison was silent now. No more cold stares, no more fake smiles, no more poison. Margaret survived, but she never reached out again. And Ryan, unable to face the truth or his own guilt, disappeared from her life completely. Olivia didn't chase him. She just stood there, breathing for the first time in what felt like years. The kind of breath that comes after surviving something meant to destroy you. Months passed, and the house that once held so much pain grew colder and emptier. Olivia packed her things quietly, one box at a time. She didn't take much, just her clothes, a few photos, and her sense of peace. Everything else could stay behind. She left the keys on the counter and walked out without looking back. That house no longer belonged to her story. The divorce papers were simple, signed without argument. Ryan didn't fight it. He couldn't. Too much had happened, and the silence between them had turned into a wall no one could climb. Olivia didn't even ask for money or property. She only wanted her freedom. After everything she had survived, she knew that peace was worth more than anything else. When the news spread, people whispered. Some said Olivia had poisoned her mother-in-law for revenge. Others said she'd gone mad. But Olivia didn't defend herself. She didn't need to. The truth was already recorded, hidden in that small video that showed everything. The police had cleared her, but gossip has a way of lingering longer than justice ever does. Ryan's family tried to protect Margaret's image. They called her a victim of misunderstanding, pretending she was an innocent woman caught in tragedy. They said Olivia had tricked her, that she had made the story up to destroy their family name. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. The evidence was clear, the poison was real, and Margaret's hatred had been her own undoing. Olivia moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers, quiet, warm, and free from the tension that once filled every breath she took. Every morning, she made her own coffee and smiled at the simple act of drinking it without fear. That small piece felt like victory. She found a new job at a local bookstore, surrounded by stories instead of whispers. People there didn't know her past, and she liked it that way. She could start over, one day at a time, without being someone's wife or someone's enemy. Sometimes, when she walked past couples holding hands, she felt a small ache, not for Ryan, but for the love she once believed they had. She knew now that love without respect was just another kind of trap, and she had escaped it. One afternoon, she got a letter from Ryan's sister. It said Margaret was bedridden and bitter, still blaming Olivia for everything. Olivia read the letter once, then tore it up and threw it away. Some things didn't deserve space in her new life. As weeks turned into months, Olivia began to smile again, real smiles that reached her eyes. She joined a local art class, made new friends, and started feeling like herself again. She had lost a husband, a home, and a piece of her past, but she had gained something more powerful: her freedom and her voice. Olivia no longer cared what people said. She had lived through their lies, their judgment, and their poison. Now she lived for herself. Years passed, and Olivia's life slowly bloomed again, like sunlight breaking through after a long storm. She bought a small cafe by the lake, a quiet, cozy place filled with the smell of fresh coffee and soft music playing in the background. It wasn't just a business to her. It was a symbol of healing, a reminder that she had survived what was meant to destroy her. Every morning, she opened the doors before sunrise. She'd wipe down the counters, grind the beans, and let the rich aroma fill the air. People from the nearby town would stop by for her famous vanilla brew or her comforting cinnamon latte. They called her cafe Olivia's Corner, though she never asked for the name. It simply stuck, like a warm nickname given out of affection. When customers chatted with her, they often noticed that she never accepted coffee from anyone else. If someone offered her a cup, she'd politely smile and say, "Thank you, but I'll make my own." Some found it strange, others just thought she was picky. But Olivia didn't explain. Only a few people in the world knew why she couldn't drink coffee made by someone else, and she preferred to keep it that way. Sometimes, when she stood behind the counter pouring a cup for a customer, her mind drifted back to those dark days in Margaret's kitchen. The cold glances, the bitter taste in her cup, the fear that followed every sip. But those memories didn't break her anymore. They reminded her how far she had come. She had once been the quiet woman who was too afraid to speak, too loyal to see the truth. Now, she was the woman who built her peace with her own two hands. Every cup she served was like a message, a silent victory over the pain that once tried to define her. Some evenings, she sat outside the cafe, watching the sun set over the lake. The orange light danced on the water, and she'd sip her coffee slowly, savoring every drop. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. She no longer needed revenge. She no longer needed people to understand her story. The fact that she survived was enough. One day, a young woman came into the cafe, her eyes red from crying. She said she was having trouble with her in-laws and didn't know what to do. Olivia listened quietly, handed her a warm cup of coffee, and said softly, "You'll find your strength when you stop trying to please those who will never see your worth." The girl smiled weakly, not realizing how deeply those words came from experience. Before closing each night, Olivia would lock up, stand by the window, and take one last look at the lake. Then she'd whisper to herself, "I made it." It was a small phrase, but it carried all the weight of her journey. The pain, the betrayal, the survival. She had learned that revenge doesn't always come in fire or fury. Sometimes it comes in peace, in quiet mornings, warm coffee, and the strength to trust herself again. Hot beverage sparkles.